I woke up in a hospital bed. My head felt heavy, and I realized that bandages were wrapped around my entire skull. I turned and I saw one of the sisters from my church. She was sleeping in a chair beside me. She opened her eyes and saw me watching her. She spoke, but I heard nothing. There was only silence. The sister stood. I then moved to sit up, but quickly realized that I couldn't. I looked and I saw that I was restrained to the bed. Then the sister set a tray down in front of me. Blank paper and a pen were set out. The sister wrote something, then kissed my forehead. I watched her leave. I looked down at the page and read the words. Tell us your sins. It had been too long since my last confession. I tried to be good, but I know the truth, and I prayed that God would forgive me. I'm so ashamed. I no longer eat. I give myself only prayers, but I know only a priest can absolve with contrition. So now I am also a blasphemer. My sins only grow more and more, and now I feel so childish, so stupid, confessing my regret to some useless diary entry, an idol. But I also feel like I'm finally free, because now I can hear nothing. Now I know the truth. I have gone deaf, and this is like a gift, a sign that God has silenced my sins. They had rang in my ears like bells, but now, by His mercy, His grace, there is nothing. I first heard the bells the morning after my cousin's wedding. Boda Deotona, she called it, and I was so excited to go. But my husband had to work, so I went alone. I was more than a little angry with him, and during the Tornaboda, I got more than a little drunk. When I woke up the next morning, I didn't know where I was. I was naked in a strange bed, and I was alone. I covered myself in a sheet and I ran to the toilet. I vomited until I was exhausted. I looked in the mirror, and that's when my ears began to ring. This is how the bells began. My face was stained with black makeup from my eyeliner, and written in lipstick across my forehead was the word Serta. I washed the makeup off in the sink. The bells rang out over the sound of the running water. I turned off the faucet. I remember thinking the ringing sound came from the pipes. That's when I realized that my wedding ring was missing. The bells chimed in my ears as I tore through the room looking for my purse. I finally found it and found my wedding ring inside. I put it back on. Then I heard another sound. My cell phone. I had gotten a text. I opened the message. It was from an unknown number. It was a picture. My own face appeared on the screen with the words still on my forehead, and a stranger had his organ on my mouth. I could not see his face, but I knew it was not my husband. I cried harder than I had ever cried before. I deleted the message. I did not know who the man was in the picture, but I knew that I had to get out of there. I found my clothes and I left. I can remember climbing into a taxi on the street and sitting alone in the back. My head was buzzing with so many thoughts at once. I took off my wedding ring and I looked at it. And I prayed. I prayed that it was all some nightmare, a mistake that would never come back to haunt me. But my prayers went unanswered, and the ringing won't stop. If everything had only stayed that way, I think I could have learned to bear it. I think if things had not gotten worse, I could have made my penance. When I came home, my husband was sleeping. I went to the shower and got in. I must have woken him up because suddenly I heard my husband's voice. He asked me where I had been. I lied. More sin. When he asked if I had fun, I lied again. I told him I missed him. I know my husband kept talking to me after that, but I couldn't hear him anymore. The ringing drowned out everything. Later that night, my husband must have known something was wrong. He had to know something, but he didn't talk about it. When he tried to kiss me, I pulled away. He yelled after me, but I left. He didn't follow. I couldn't sleep, so I wandered the house that night. My sin would not let me sleep. It rang in my ears like bells. The constant jingle and chime echoed in my head. I walked into our parlor, and I saw my husband standing with his back to me. I said his name, and my husband turned around. His eyes were torn out, and his mouth was full of blood. I screamed, but all I could hear were the bells. My husband fell on top of me, and he held me there on the floor. Then his bleeding mouth opened, and I saw his throat rip apart, and the clawed hands of a demon climbed out of my husband. I saw a living skeleton pull itself out of his flesh, and it saw me with its eyeless face. It held my mouth open with its claws and vomited blood and filth and tiny metal sleigh bells into me. I woke up at the kitchen table the next morning. I sat up and my husband walked in. He looked at me, then kissed my forehead and left for work. The bells had stopped, and I thought my prayers had been answered. But my shame soon turned to panic. I can remember feeling something change in me, and then I was vomiting again. I cleaned myself, and a thought came to me, and the ringing started again. I had to be sure. I walked to the pharmacy. The old woman who passed by me seemed to stare. My neighbors, my cousin's family, they were all there, and they were all staring at me. And then I remembered thinking, were they all at my cousin's wedding? I was so drunk that night I couldn't remember who had seen me leave with the stranger. But what if they did see me? Dancing, flirting, touching. And what about now? What if they saw what I was buying? Would they tell my husband? And then I thought, why didn't they try to stop me? Or worse, what if they did try? Is that why they were staring now? Did they know I was an adulterer? I brought the pregnancy tests home. I needed to know. I took the test 4 times, and every time the mark was the same. I was crying and pleading on the bathroom floor. I prayed to the Virgin Mother. I needed her to help me, save me from my sin. I can remember wrapping the beads of the rosary around my wrists again and again, trying to say the Hail Mary. But the ringing would not stop. And then my cell phone got another text. I looked at the screen. Another message from the unknown number. A video this time. I hit the play button. I could hear my own voice screaming, and then a male voice called me, Puta. I turned off the video before I could really even see anything besides the back of my own head. I deleted the video and blocked the unknown number. I remember thinking, I can silence my phone, but I can't silence my sins. Later, I found the website online. I scrolled on my cell phone screen and I made the appointment. I would have to wait until the day before Noche Buena. All I could think about was how every moment my sin was growing inside me. Every second that passed until that final day, my sin would trap me more and more. Until the day finally came, my fate would be sealed. And then I thought, even when that day does finally come, my sins would not be silenced. My marriage may be saved, but I was only trading one sin for another. And the more I thought about it, the louder the bells rang. I sat with my husband at the first feast of Las Posadas. Everyone ate and drank and laughed, but I could only stare at my food. I could not hear anything over the sound of the bells. I can remember thinking, if I can just get through the night, I could survive until Noche Buena. Then I felt the wine crash into my face. I stood and looked and saw my cousin standing across from me. She threw her empty cup at me and she pointed and screamed at me, but I could not hear her. I then saw that everyone was staring up at me, even my husband. Then all the men stood from the table and grabbed a hold of me. I screamed and fought, but no sound could be heard. Only the bells. My husband watched and he did nothing as the men put me on the table and began tearing off my clothes. The men were naked now and they held me down. I screamed as one of them climbed on top of me. My husband never moved. He never looked away. Then I looked at the naked men on top of me. His eyes rolled back and his mouth opened and his chest split apart. His head fell back and the living skeleton crawled out of him and I was drowning in blood. I woke up in our parlor on the couch. It was dark, but I couldn't remember how late. Then my husband came into the room. He smiled at me. I remember thinking he couldn't know. He would never forgive me if he knew. My husband took me by the hand and I stood up. He carried me to bed and he kissed me. I let him lay me down. I let him kiss down my neck. Could he tell I was different now? Did he care? Could my husband sense that I wanted to make him happy? Or did he not care? And then I thought, how could my husband not know? How could he let me be alone around other men? How could he allow them to touch me, allow me to touch them? I couldn't lay there any longer. I pushed my husband off and I sat up. He said something, but I couldn't hear him over the ringing. He tried to touch me again, but I stood and left the bedroom. He didn't follow. I wandered the house in the dark. I couldn't sleep. The bells wouldn't let me. I can remember lying by the feet of our Virgin Mother statue. I can remember holding the rosary. Finally, the day came. It was the last night of Las Posadas, the day before Noche Buena. I waited, and finally they let me pay them their money. They led me into the back rooms. I can remember changing into the hospital gown and waiting for the doctors. The doctors gave me my anesthesia, and the bells faded away. I can remember thinking this was more relief than I deserved. Then everything went black. My eyes opened again slightly, and I felt the pain wash over me. I was awake on the operating table, and I couldn't move. I remember thinking, the drugs have worn off. My anesthesia didn't work. I tried to scream. Only the hiss of the machines could be heard. Then the lights began to flicker, and the bells faded back into my ears. This is my punishment, I thought. This is what I deserved. But then I could finally move my head. I can remember pulling it up slowly. Then a rubber-gloved hand pushed my head back down. My eyes opened wider and I could see the doctors standing in a circle around me. They were holding my arms and legs. I pulled my head up again and I saw a doctor slice open my stomach with a scalpel. My blood spilled everywhere and claws burst out of my skin. The bells screamed louder than my voice, and I felt the pain of my body being torn apart as the living skeleton crawled out of me. I blinked, and I was alone in the recovery room. The bells had stopped. I tried to sit up, but my body was too sore. I waited, and a nurse in blue scrubs came over to me. She told me it was over. She told me I could leave. She helped me get dressed and walked me outside. A taxi came, and I got in. The house was still empty when I got there. I can remember going inside and collapsing into bed. I finally fell asleep. It was the next day, the morning of Noche Buena, and I woke up alone in bed. I got up and showered and redressed. My husband was not home. I checked my cell phone, but there was nothing. I found the rosary and I tried to pray, but I couldn't. I can remember pulling on the beads again, wrapping them around my wrists. The rosary broke and the beads scattered all over the floor. I watched the mess I made spill and roll everywhere. I cleaned the floors. I washed the dishes. Soon I was cleaning the whole house. Then the evening came and I heard my husband come home. I walked into our parlor. I saw him standing there with his back to me. I can remember thinking this was just like my nightmares. I said his name and he turned. He stared blankly at me. I looked back at him and I could feel the tears flood into my eyes. Before I could speak, he set his cell phone down on the table. He pressed the play button. A video started. I could recognize my voice. I saw myself naked on the screen with the stranger. I looked up at my husband. I moved to turn off the video, but he pulled his phone away. I felt sick. I could hear myself on the little speakers. I hated that I sounded like I liked it. My husband spoke before I could. He told me the men at work had showed him the video. He told me it was all over amateur pornography sites online. The video ended. He asked me how I could do this to him. I didn't know what to say. Then my husband shouted. He demanded that I say something. I cried and shook my head. Then my husband grabbed me. He swore at me and shook me, telling me to say something to explain why I did it. I had never seen him so angry before. Then I realized he was choking me. I couldn't breathe. I pulled away and he followed. He grabbed me again and hit me. I stopped and looked at him. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then he cursed and grabbed me again. My husband threw me into the wall. I could feel him getting closer. He reached out to grab me again. I ripped the Virgin Mother statue off the pedestal and swung it at my husband. He fell to the floor. Blood gushed from his head and pooled under him. I can remember the regret and panic. I dropped the statue. I rushed over to my husband and knelt down. I tried to wake him, but he did not move. I screamed how sorry I was over and over until my words became noise and I pulled him into my arms. I cradled my husband's body like a newborn baby. Then the ringing of the bells came back. I can remember running into the streets covered in blood. I passed by shopkeeper and neighbors. I saw children and dogs stop to stare at me. I turned and was almost hit by a car, but all I could hear was the ringing. I tried to scream for help, but people jumped back. No one wanted to come near me. No one wanted to help. I ran to the Church of Our Lady of Mercy. The pews were all empty before Misa de Gallo. I screamed for a priest. I screamed my confession to the altar. I begged for salvation, for a miracle. But I could not hear my own voice. The bells drowned out everything. Then I saw the statue of St. Peter and his ring of keys. I ran over to the statue and I tried to pull them free from the stone hand. The sisters of the church surrounded me. They tried to take me away, but I would not stop. I needed to silence the bells. I wrenched the keys free from the statue and I shoved the metal deep into my ears. The sharp pain exploded out of me. Blood washed over my hands, and then there was silence. The ringing had finally stopped. I fell on the floor and closed my eyes. My confession is all I have now. I pray God has mercy on my soul.